In addition to the video that I recorded about the groundbreaking verdict in the Sitzer-Burnett trial on November 1st, 2023, I would like to add a little bit more information about what the buyers and the sellers could potentially expect from the upcoming changes in the real estate, the way that the real estate is conducted overall. So the very first and the biggest shift that I believe will affect both the buyers and the sellers will be a shift in a housing affordability. In 2022 and 2023, the increase in interest rates and very often the change in the rules for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac affecting the debt to income that the buyers need to have in order to qualify for a loan resulted in a lot of people who were previously qualified to buy homes feeling that they're no longer able to afford the house of the size and in an area that they can that they would like to. Therefore, many home buyers in 2022 and 2023 already decided that they're going to continue to stay where they are, whether it's renting, living with their parents, or living in the current situation, and wait until either the home prices decrease or the or the rates decrease, but in any way they were on a fence deciding whether or not to buy the house, waiting for positive changes. Well, this Sitzer-Burnett trial actually adds another financial hurdle to their potential home purchase by making them potentially responsible for paying real estate fee that could amount to tens of thousands of dollars in some cases. And in many situations, home buyers are just not willing to add additional financial burden to their already difficult home purchase process. So shift in the housing affordability is most likely going to affect those buyers who are either buying for the first time and they don't have a lot of cash saved, or maybe they're transitioning from a smaller house to a bigger house, but they don't have a lot of cushion, don't have a lot of a buffer. When they sell their existing home, they have just enough money left over to purchase their new home. Those people will be most negatively affected. Shift in the housing prices. There is no currently way to tell how the shift in housing affordability will affect housing prices. Will they stay the same? Will they decline? Will potentially they somehow increase? Nobody can tell, but anytime you see or we see widespread effect of some elements, so for example, increase in interest rates, led to a huge drop in the buyer activity compared to previous years. So we have already seen how interest rates made home prices in 2023 fall below the 2022 level and 2021 level. So from that standpoint, even though we don't know exactly how it's going to unfold, we can probably say that there will be at least some initial negative effect on home prices due to more and more buyers deciding that they are just not going to be shopping. They're just going to stay with their parents, stay renting, or stay in a house that they're in. Shift in buyer expectations. So up until now, it was relatively easy, despite the financial hurdles for the buyers to purchase a home, assuming that they were able to afford a monthly payment from their lender on their mortgage. They could just call up an agent, say, I would like to see an XYZ home. They would go view the home, and if they like the home, they could easily ask the agent to draft up a contract and start the purchase process, making it easy for them to actually purchase a house. It was a very smooth, streamlined process. Of course, there were still inspections and appraisals to go through, but at the very least, as far as getting under a contract, it was a pretty smooth process. Now, assuming that many buyer agents will know that they are not going to be paid for their services, it will no longer be potentially as smooth a process for the buyers. So for example, how do buyers access the home for viewing? If the buyers are interested in a home, how can they check whether the home is priced correctly? How can they ask whom can they ask to recommend what to do in the event that they need, let's just say, some kind of maybe they need to sell their current house first and then buy this home, or maybe they have some other stipulation that needs to be negotiated in a contract. Whom can they ask that question? Currently, they're asking their buyer agent, but in the future, they may not have somebody to provide this kind of an advice to them very easily. Also, if they wanted to make an offer on a house, how are they going to write an offer? Most buyers are not familiar with writing and negotiating contracts. If they wrote an offer, but that offer is not sufficiently high, do they have the experience needed to negotiate a winning offer if there are multiple buyers? So all of this currently is being handled for them, like giving candy to a kid by the buyer agents, but when the buyer agency goes away and the buyer agents no longer guide the buyers, it will become a lot more difficult, nerve-breaking, and potentially scary for the buyers to be left by themselves facing all of those logistical challenges. So the shift in the buyer expectations might affect their excitement and ability to actually execute a contract. Now, if the buyer agents no longer are writing contracts for the buyers, then who is writing the contracts? It is very unlikely that an average first-time home buyer or even a second or third-time home buyer is able to successfully negotiate a 13-page contract filled with provision that they do not even know how those apply to their scenario or to their life situation. So I do anticipate that if the buyer agents are not in the picture, then somehow lawyers will open up shops advising them that they could create quickie contracts for them. But that potentially increases involvement of lawyers in what used to be an agent-to-agent transaction. So before, if you were a home seller, you had your own agent. The buyer had their own agent. Those agents were all in agreement that they will only get paid if the house actually closes, if there is a completed sale. So both the buyer agent and the seller agent depended on cooperating with one another in order for both of them to get paid. But we know that lawyers do not work on, if this closes, I will get paid. The lawyers typically get paid by the hour. So there is no incentive for the lawyer to facilitate a quick and easy sale, because then there is less money coming to the lawyer. So lawyer's involvement in a contract actually leads to the lawyer temptation to create as much fuss about the language and the wording and the process of the contract as possible to get paid for more billed hours. So lawyer involvement in a contract might increasing the need for the seller now on their own to become involved in lawyer-to-lawyer communications, increasing potentially legal costs for the parties. Now, as you are aware there are lawyers, there could be potentially lawsuits. So if more lawyers become involved in the preparation and negotiation of the contracts, then I almost can see how this increased activity of lawyers could potentially lead to increased number of lawsuits that the buyer agents or the buyers potentially have toward the sellers, because they can claim that the seller did not properly fulfill the provisions of his contract, that they were not properly legally represented during the contract, or whatever you can think of. But I can see how lawyer involvement in the contracts could increase the number of lawsuits that the home sellers would be facing as a result. Now, let's forget about the legal challenges for right now. Let's look at other logistical challenges. So logistical challenge number one would be, as I mentioned before, shifting buyer expectations. How does the buyer views a property that he is able to view? So let's just say that in some situations, the owners already live at the property, and upon a certain agreed upon time, they leave the house open, or they create some kind of a keypad where they can, when the buyers can come in unattended and view the home. Now, Leaving the buyers unattended without an accompanied buyer agent opens up a whole can of worms on their own. Items could be broken, items could disappear. Gold watches, a medication, God only knows, could disappear. Also, if a buyer agent is not involved, then you don't even know who potentially is viewing your home. Let's just say that you're a home seller, you're trying to sell your home, and you receive a text message from somebody that said that these people are interested in viewing a home. Previously, when they were represented by a buyer agent, you could call your agent could call the buyer agent and say, are the buyers properly qualified? Do they have this? So the buyer agent could easily, the agent-to-agent communication could easily establish whether these people are qualified and need to be in your home at all. Now that they're not represented potentially by any agent, they're on their own, it is much harder for your agent to decide whether these people even belong seeing your home. But let's just say that those people come in. If they're not guided by their own agent and they're all in a house all by themselves, then unfortunately that could lead to a lot of situations where you could have people who come with malicious intent, pretending to be buyers and claiming that they're qualified, accessing your home without any supervision involved. How is it going to affect the occupied homes? I do not know. Vacant homes are a little bit easier. They cannot steal medication, they cannot steal guns, they cannot steal, let's just say, valuables from a vacant home. But leaving your house that is vacant open to people who claim to be home buyers, able to access the home at any time that they want without adult supervision, is also potentially could be risky from a standpoint of those people. Number one, vandalizing the home. Number two, establishing kind of like a camping out in that home, or God only knows what. But also, you would need to come up with a way to somehow monitor the faces of the people. So maybe additional cameras. I'm not quite sure how it's all going to be involved, or how it's all going to be arranged. But obviously, letting people who claim to be buyers and unrestricted access to a vacant home could lead to tricky situations. So that is the viewing routine. Disruption of the major websites. Right now, many home buyers are relying on websites such as Zillow, Redfin, OfferPad, you name it. Those buyers are reliant on those services to look at the homes available for sale, look up the data for those homes, etc., etc. But many of those websites could not continue to operate without influx of money from the agents. So who pays for the operations of Zillow? Who pays for the operation of Redfin? Guess what? The real estate agents do. The real estate agents pay for Zillow to maintain their profile in their website and to promote their profile. So when people look at Zillow, there is some kind of realtors that suggested realtors in your area or something like that. So a huge amount of Zillow profit and other website profit, I'm just selecting Zillow for right now because it's a name that everybody recognizes, comes from their ability to collect money from the realtors. But now that the realtors no longer have a way to get paid for featuring on that website, guess what? A huge amount of profit, I don't know, 70%, 80% for companies like Zillow and Redfin and some others might completely evaporate overnight. Will those websites continue to operate? How many websites that are currently in business will continue to operate? How will their operations change? We do not know, but we know it will be disrupted at least a little bit. Changes to multiple listing service companies. So as of right now, most home sellers who put their house on the market go through a special service called multiple listing service. Multiple listing service is actually a specific company that takes information from your realtor, listing agent, and they submit it to various websites, be it Zillow, binghomes.com, Bing, what else? Property Finder, anyhow. So a multiple listing service also exists only due to the payments from the agents who want to view homes or help their buyers find homes through the listing agent, through this multiple listing services. So if not for the payments from the agents, those multiple listing companies will not exist. They just won't be able to operate. Now, on top of that, or maybe they'll operate, but on some very, very reduced budget. But on top of that, not only do the current lawsuits, and right now we're only looking at the Sitzer-Burnett trial, but there have been 4 or 5 additional lawsuits that have been filed in the past few months that specifically target the multiple listing service companies, basically forcing them, if in case they are found guilty of whatever that trial claims, imposing huge verdicts on them. Let's just say $1 billion verdict, $500 million verdict against the company who provides the listing, multiple listing services to realtors. Obviously, if a multiple listing service company is hit with a lawsuit that basically claim that they owe the plaintiffs $1 million or $10 million or $1 billion, whatever it is, those multiple listing companies will likely file for Chapter 11 bankruptcies, file for Chapter 7 bankruptcies, whatever they do, their ability to operate on top of the reduced number of payments from the realtors will probably potentially be under threat. Contracts falling through. So right now, in most cases, there are a buyer agent and a seller agent, and both of those agents, their ability to make money, their ability to earn their commission is contingent wholly on the fact that the transaction comes to a close, that the transfer of the title and the money are finalized between the buyer and the seller. So right now you are, as a home seller, are obviously motivated to sell your home. And you are represented by an agent, your seller agent, who's giving you advice on how to operate or how to perform this transaction as smoothly as possible, with as few hiccups, delays, and change of plans as possible. Now, in the past, your buyer, potential buyers, were also represented by agents who also were giving them advice on how to perform inspections, how to pay for appraisals, what to do if appraisal came in low, what to do if inspections came in not as good as expected, what to do, when to order a survey. All of those items were smoothly conducted by their agent. And if for some reason there was a friction, maybe the appraisal came in a little bit lower than expected, maybe there were more repairs than expected, the buyer agent was interested in completing the sale so they can get paid. So they would be helping the buyers to resolve those issues and to resolve those objections, and working together with the listing agent in order for everybody to get what they wanted, sellers to get their money and buyers to get their home. Now, in this particular case, let's imagine we no longer have the buyer agent who is interested in seeing the case to a closing table. Let's just say that the buyer agent is out of the picture. So the buyers are now left alone with reviewing inspection reports, understanding how appraisals affect their ability to purchase, dealing with surveys, dealing with all kind of unexpected things that happen when two parties are under a contract to purchase a house for about a month. With no buyer agent facilitating the smooth resolution of those items, I do anticipate that at least some percentage of those contracts, the buyers will just back out and their contract will fall through. Lastly, of course, now and it goes without saying, right now, most realtors, the word realtor is actually a national designation that the real estate agents must obtain from a National Association of Realtors, who then impose on the realtors their ability to do this or that, or prohibit realtors from doing this or that. So currently, we have certain rules, national rules, that the agents follow. Some of them are very strict. For example, one of them is called clear cooperation rule. Clear cooperation rule means that the buyer and the seller agent should have no secrets among each other. The agreed upon commissions need to be paid, etc., etc. Once those rules dissipate during the outcome or as a result of the back and forth, legal back and forth resulting from the Sitzer-Burnett trial. Now, these rules, which used to govern the conduct of the parties, will potentially leave a vacuum that will take a while to fill. And in the absence of those clear rules and in the presence of a vacuum, I do expect that there will be more confusion, more legal challenges between the brokers and the sellers and the sellers and buyers and brokers, etc. So anytime legal rules change, it takes a while for the participants of the market to understand and to come upon agreement on the new rules of the transaction. And in the meantime, while it's still all being negotiated, there could be sudden changes. For example, when you start your purchase process, your agent could say you can expect X. And then as you're waiting for the house to sell, another rule or another court ruling might come down, and now your agent could say, sorry, legally, we no longer can do this, we now have to do Y. And that might have been not your initial design. So there are many implications of the Sitzer-Burnett trial right now, but on a positive side, if you're a home seller, it could potentially lead to fewer commissions being paid due to the buyer agent commission no longer being paid by you. So we do have this implication that we do not know how they're going to play out, but we know that most likely there is going to be at least some upside to all of those changes. So I'm going to continue to cover. I'm reading a lot about the Sitzer-Burnett trial and similar other trials that are currently pending in different states. As I continue to receive updates from different court cases, I'm going to be posting them on my YouTube channel. So if this case and this legal mess is somehow interesting to you to follow, feel free to either respond to this email and let me know, and I will include more communication to you about those changes, or follow my YouTube channel and you will see me posting new videos. My name is Elena Garrett, and I'm a realtor with the Keller Williams office in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. If you have any questions, my contact information is below in the description. I'll see you guys soon. Stay warm. It is November, and hopefully you're enjoying the Texas weather.